All right. Hey, we got Brad Gaines here, a good friend of mine from a long time ago. And um, Brad has been in the home building industry for a long time. And Brad, why don't you tell us about yourself and your background and your history?
Sure. Um, I first really got associated with Fast when I was hired by Rob Stewart of Stewart Grayson Construction. That was sometime in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, possibly. And they hired me and they said that they wanted to send me over to this place for training on this new system that they just purchased. So I was able to spend a lot of time with with your employees over there, and they trained me up and went through the whole system, went back, and I'll never forget it. Went to go release an estimate, didn't have any selected vendors, didn't have any vendor prices, and I didn't have any, um, I don't even know what the third thing was. I clicked off so quickly that I thought, okay, let's try again.
Have you
But I was
did you ever use any computer software prior to that?
No, only for I had surgery on my leg in 1982, and it put me down for a whole year, and then I had to basically re-educate myself because at that point I needed to get a office job uh, because I was doing framing type activities and working peripherally in the industry. So um, I worked for a couple insurance companies in downtown Seattle and worked on their programs that they had. Um, from a construction standpoint, absolutely not. You know, it was pretty primitive back in those days, and it really worked out well. But with Stuart Grayson, and I think the economy up there in the Seattle area kind of took a mini dive. I had a young son at that time, and you know, it's a lot of pressure when you have a family at that point. So um, I think I sent you a resume looking for a job at Fast, and I'll never forget. Came over, talked to you and Bill Allen. You put me in the chair, asked me a bunch of questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? And I was in tune to by then to what I was doing, and I did great. And as usual, Chuck, you kept asking questions until, you know, I couldn't get something. So I vaguely remember that you asked me, there's three ways to delete a customer out of Fast. And I'll never forget that I told you, well, I think there's four. And so we went through them, you know, the warranty, the sales, uh, the sales portion of it, obviously the back office with the, HR stuff. So I'll never forget that. And Bill Allen, alls I know, Chuck, is you wore the poker face always. And Bill Allen couldn't control himself, so he really was squirming around. So at that point, I knew I had it. I think you asked me very shortly after that how much money, I wanted. And I was reasonable about it and very good to you, Chuck. And, just knowing that I would be comfortable with whatever I told you. So, um, that was great, and I remember going over there to, I believe it was 164th over in Redmond, the modified office space over there.
Yeah.
You and Bill and Mike Johnson would peek in every now and then, and I'll never forget, Ron Sonny and Sean Ryan. Those guys were different characters, but characters none the least.
Indeed.
So. And I think I worked with you guys for at least 2, 3 years until, the one thing you did, you put me out on the road and exposed me to all the great builders that were on Fast. And I'll never forget my first trip. I went to Cimarron Homes in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. I'll just never forget how nervous I was. And, and then John Riddell down at Sutton Homes. He was such a great man and, very smart. And he's like, well, how much you making up there at Fast? Can't be that much. And so, I told him, and he's like, well, what do you think if I doubled that? Would you consider Las Vegas? And, I'll never forget. I went home, had a bunch of brochures with houses. I looked at my wife. It was late at night. I said, well, you want to move to Las Vegas? And I threw down all these brochures from all these different builders, and it's like, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to pick what we want down there. And so we made that move, and I was with them for a couple of years, and then moved over to Jim Rhodes. And that cowboy, he had quite a thing going on over there where it was hard to communicate. Dominated the room so much, but he was fair and a little bit crazy. If he looked at me and said, Brad, I want to start 20 homes. And we're like, well, we just started 20 homes, a couple weeks ago. And he's like, no, okay, make it 40 homes. It's like, so he was a wild guy, and I lasted, I think, 4 years with him. Came back to Fast, and that was when Malcolm was in charge, and worked with him and Tim Wellings. And I'll never forget, I was at the Pacific Coast Builder Show, and Tim Wellings had been recruiting me to come to Texas to Obra Homes. And I went to Malcolm at the start of the show, and I said, Malcolm, after the show, I want to talk to you. And Malcolm, he's like, no, Brad, no. No, we really don't have much to talk about. I just want to close the show and move on. And I'm like, well, I have something I want to tell you. And he's like, no, I know what you're going to tell me. It's like, I don't want to hear it. But I told him anyway. And, and working at Fast was probably one of the most satisfying times of my life because you gave me the rope so I could hang myself. And I think I still have the rope. So it hasn't
It's still on
happened
my
yet.
neck.
Yeah, I can feel it. Got rope burns.
Yeah.
But I went to San Antonio. I was there for a couple years down there too. And they decided they did a strange thing where
What
in
builder was that?
Obra Homes,
Mm.
Obra Homes, they were out of McAllen, Texas. And Tim was the corporate operations guy, and he wanted me to come down and help them open up a San Antonio office there. So got there, and like I said, I was there a couple of years. It was different because they had one centralized database in McAllen, and up in San Antonio, we were just a satellite office basically at that time, and so then they decided they were going to open up another place and another office in Houston. And that's when they decided to split it into three different systems, I think.
Uh,
And that was kind of very confusing because there was not a high quality of communication where people were making changes and we all were kind of building the same product. Very low entry and carports and four block walls. Um, but it was a good job. By then, I had three kids, and the same thing happened. Obra, they said, hey Brad, we appreciate the help. We're going to give you a month, and then we're going to let you go. Okay, no problem. And I just remember going back to my client list, Chuck. You get a printed out client list, and it's like, okay, just I sent out all these, you know, resumes for crying out loud. And Jean Trinder, she called me one morning and She was a CFO for the home builder I work for now, ICI Homes. Very nice British woman. And with her, she wanted me to come out this weekend if I could to Daytona Beach. And I said, yes, I'd love to. So I came out there. They took me around. And here's the interesting thing about this job interview process. So prior to that, I did a makeup call in, I was out running around the Southeast and someone said, could you go to ICI Homes on a makeup call 3 days? I'm like, okay. So I went down there, not knowing anybody. Okay. They were new to me and I was new to them. And so I'll never forget, I was doing the buyer process training, the design center and the sales manager, and um, the what turned out to be Faru Hosseini. She was a technical, she was a Microsoft Access expert, and they all did everything away. And so we got to the second day, and I had pretty much, slam dunked it. And next day I come in, and they're like, "Brad, you did a great job." It's like, could you just take a look at how our plan structure is? And I went in and looked at the plan structure, and I looked at it and like, oh my God, this was when the componentization came into effect, where they had a plan, they had a plan with all these inclusions. Okay. HVAC, slab inclusion, every trade was an inclusion. And to me, it was kind of mind-boggling because I kind of did the traditional way of you create a base plan, you put
Right.
everything in the base plan, then you do an elevation, put everything into the elevation. If there's anything else, you could find another way to accommodate that. So I remember telling the group, it's like, yeah, well, um, to me, this is kind of a new way to do it, but I don't know really how effective it is because I haven't really seen it in progress yet. But for me, I would change the structure of your plan and elevations and your options and all that. And so Faru Hosseini, she told me, she's like, well, my brother, Moji, created this. And I'm like, at that point, Chuck, I'm just like, oh, way to ruin your 3 days, right? You got the
Yeah.
owner's wife all over you. So it was great. So then fast forward to when I was interviewing, same people in the room. They're like, Brad, what do you want to do first when you come in like your first 6 months? And I'm like, well, I'm going to gut all your plans and elevation. I'm going to redo them. I'm going to renumber all your options so they make sense. Um, and that's when, fast sales was in full swing and they couldn't get it to work because go figure, their data was kind of a mess at that time.
Yeah.
At that time, they were on fast for 13 years. And so I told them that's what I do. And they hired me anyway. So, and honestly, thanks to you, someone told me that Maury Hosseini either emailed you and says, should I hire this Brad Gaines guy? And you said yes. You told him yes, and that's all it took. So thank you again.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
that's
didn't
why I'm out
realize, I
here.
didn't remember that you had that problem that you were dealing with of the plans being broken up into all these components, which kind of sounds cool, but it's not really the way the software was designed.
It wasn't. And the other thing is, fast sales was coming around, and that, was a big thing because again, you had to organize all your options and get all that stuff coded and set up to where it will be easy for salespeople and then easy for design center people. So that was fantastic. It was a great thing. So, I just finished my 20th year with ICI last year, and I'm on my 21st year. Actually, I'm retired, working 3 days a week for them, and taking a couple extra days off a week. So
Nice.
yeah, it's been great.
So what do you think when you were dealing with plans broken up into those components? What kind of problems did that cause?
To me, I think that they were the company's a privately held company. It's a family driven company, and a lot of the people had been there a long time, and it's like there were people there that were associates of Maury and Faru and her family. So there was a lot of that going on. So I think when they hired me, I really kind of made it really clear and that I wanted to do that because honestly, Chuck, that's all I really knew how to do was that. I didn't experience that whole inclusion in other companies. Now, I know other companies use that inclusion feature, but it was um, limited. You know, I used inclusions for, include this elevation, include, just a lot of different things, but I didn't overdo it because, you know, it's the KISS principle.
Keep it
Keep it
simple.
simple.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't really care what kind of problems they were going to have or were having. I just know that once I got up and running, and it took a little while. I'll tell you one thing. I went to our North Florida division in Jacksonville, and I laid it out. I told them what I was going to do. The marketing lady came up to me afterwards, and she's like, this is never going to work here. And I'm like, okay, you know, thank you. I'll see you again soon.
I'll see you when it's working.
So yeah, so it took a long time because the division president of Jacksonville, he was old school. The head of the design center, had a pencil to do her design center uh, forms. So they were pretty in the past. This system could carry its own weight. I remember they just had hired a CFO, and I got to her and I said, "Look, it's like this this is what will work for your company, and if I could get any of your support, I'd appreciate it." And it worked out. That lady is still up in North Florida. She's a CFO. She's a main accounting person for that division, a controller, I guess. But um, that worked. It really worked, and I converted those guys. One other thing, the current division manager that's up there, he started up at I think a year before I did, and he was an assistant warranty guy. Okay. And this guy went to school for construction management. So he was degreed in construction management. So he was trying to just get in and work his way through. So he became a builder, then he became a purchasing guy. He understood and really enjoyed the purchase order system, the job costing, everything that really worked great in fast. So, but he developed such a great following up there with the troops, let's say, that he eventually was able to wrestle away that division leader basically up there, and he's doing a great job. And they're doing it the right way. They're doing scheduling. They're the POs. Everybody meets with VPOs, and so the whole concept that the Chuck Shin and Lee Evans, those guys were talking about, were a lot of concepts that ICI pretty much has developed over time, and it's not easy. I think the hardest part was the scheduling part
Mm.
because no builder in the free world really wants to do a schedule in the field with a phone or a tablet. They're used to using the cell phone and calling the vendors directly. So it it's been very successful for ICI Homes.
Do you guys send out confirmation reports to the vendors?
No, no. I think it's kind of a mixed bag where they're working really on their phones in the field.
Uh,
Unfortunately, you know, we switched systems, so everything's really changed. And again, I think I told you before, it's like it's really not a good system for ICI because it's really geared towards smaller home builders than we are. And we are highly customized. We'll build whatever a customer wants. We'll blow out walls. We'll, make them deeper. We'll do whatever they want. And of course, they get charged for it. So
right.
it's a little different story now, but it's okay. The younger generation has kind of came in now and they wanted something new, and that's what they selected.
Do the vendors turn in the PO as the invoice?
Those are all approved in the field by the builder in the field, and then there's a kind of a two-step process. The builder in the field and then the construction manager both will take a look at that, and the construction manager will do the final approval. Everything flows right into accounts payable. So much like fast, you're able to run those checks and get the checks out in a timely manner. So
Right. So you were saying about a couple of years ago, you switched from fast to what system?
the mark system.
And how is that going?
Um, as a long time fast user, I can tell you it's a couple steps down from fast. It's a little cumbersome in areas. Let me make one point. At fast, when we did a release, we'd send out release notes, right? And they would be multiple pages, very detailed oriented, referencing tables and fields and things like that. When we get a an upgrade
You're talking
from
about the
this
software now,
system,
when you get a new release of the software.
pardon me,
You're talking about when you get a new release of the software?
yes, an update or whatever, and yes, that's correct. And their release notes are like one quarter of a page, and so from my standpoint, looking at what it used to be like versus what it is now, it is a completely different story, and we have to Um, we don't fight, but getting support is a little problematic at times. Everything gets closed. They have an ideas portal, which is kind of the opinion, the black hole, because other customers can vote on anything in the ideas portal. Well, a company like us, I get 10 votes and they're gone. They're already gone, and there's like, how do I do I get a refill of votes anytime? Haven't seen it yet. So it's a little different.
What is the volume of homes that you're building these days?
I think last year we did 600, a little over 600. And again, those are really like mini mansions and on down. Our lowest price right now, Chuck, for probably a 1,700 square foot house is about 447,000.
Hmm.
And ICI builds a nice quality home. There we have a lot of standard features that are upgrades in other building companies. Um, they do a very good job on quality.
So you've got about 600 homes. And what about standard plans? How many of those do you have, and how many elevations and how many options do you offer actually in the system?
It all depends on the plan itself. There's one plan that I think they have worked to death. It was originally called an egret, just an egret. Then it became an egret 2, an egret 3, an egret 4, an egret 5, an egret 6, an egret 7. Okay, so that's where we're at right now on egrets. So,
Now, do you have all of those plans active, or are those replacements? Like the
so
most
there are
recent?
some
Yeah.
replacements, but I know out of all, so right now the egret one is still active. The egret 5 is still active, and the egret 7 is still active. So in those elevations, we probably have maybe 4 or 5, per plan. The smaller homes, because egret's a kind of a 70-foot wide product, so it's bigger. The smaller plans, they'll have 3 elevations, sometimes even 2. You know, plans that don't sell a lot, we keep it all with about 2 to 3, sometimes 4 on ones that really are popular. So it all depends, but we have a plan library that is really deep, and they continue to take old plan products because we were on the ocean at one time, a long time ago, I think even before I came, and they had these 3-story plans that were, bird nests at the top and things like that. And those got put on the do not use list for a long time. And then recently we built some homes down by the ocean, and we brought those back, renamed them, got them up to the current code, and we use some of those now up in Hammock Dunes. And so yeah, we repurpose a lot of stuff here. We'll take old plans, rename them, and do that. So
How many standard options do you think you have?
let me tell you how many we had when we were on fast first. So on fast, we had our universal options, the universal options that went anywhere, the light switch, the ceiling fan pre-wire, all those. We had about 1,100 of those when they were on fast, and then each plan had between 400 and 600 plan specific options. So again, we're offering a lot to our customers. Um, the great thing about fast is I had the 3 areas to go to: the vendor price, the sales price, and then the plan itself, to where in the elevation, if we had the plan in the elevation with all the costs in, there's your cost. It was always that cost. And if someone came and bought one of those plans and wanted to upgrade it, oh yeah, we would do that. But we would at least have that base cost for all of our activities in
Mhm.
FAST. These days, in this new system, all those options, a lot of the options are in every single plan. So if we have these plans in many developments, but they're they're all carrying all the options at once instead of the hierarchy that we had in fast.
Mhm.
There is no hierarchy here, so it's just a tell you, I would like to say like 15,000 options,
Wow.
you know.
Is it because the mark system doesn't handle that, or is it just because it was set up wrong?
No, I think we set it up the way they wanted to have us set it up, and their system doesn't have that hierarchy of what we had in fast with that universal, what'd you call them, company-wide options. That's what you
Yeah,
guys called them
yeah.
over, the all the builders that I've worked for. Here we call them Universal Daytona and Universal Jacksonville and Universal. So there's some little bit of hierarchy in there, but not to the degree that Fast had. And that's it's hard to what I liked about Fast is we always knew what each elevation cost. Okay, so if it was just the standard features and boom, we always knew what that was. Here it's kind of they have to do it individually. They're almost doing uh, each customer individually, where they basically just start from scratch.
Mm,
And a lot of that has to do with customization. But again, you and I know how many activities to you and cost codes to me that you have in building one structure. And so that's kind of overwhelming. I can see it in some of our estimators where they're just constantly doing estimates for a plan that we have in stock for a long time, but they seem to want to just continually to update them.
mm,
And
yeah.
the other thing with the mark system is every vendor has a contract, right? But every vendor needs a contract for every single job.
Mm.
So it those are the those are the things that drove me to retirement, really. I didn't want to play a lot of those games, because uh Fast and Constellation, you guys all spoiled me. So it's hard to make that transition.
Yeah. You just felt like you're going backwards.
Definitely did. And you know, then all the new kids came in and got their positions, and it's like, man, all of a sudden, how did I get so stupid?
Is there scheduling in the mark system?
There is.
Do
And
you
it's
use?
not too bad. You set up a template. You can set it up how you want. And for us, we got to do the smaller houses and then the bigger houses. And um, but that wasn't too bad. I mean, I think they learned a lot over time from the people that really knew how to do it, like Hyphen and those guys.
Are you
So
connected to Hyphen?
we're not. And uh, when we went through and I brought people in to uh, you know give us a presentation, they uh, they came in, they did a good job, but they were kind of at that time in 1999, yeah, 1999. They were kind of developing more of I think a back office. They were trying to enhance their accounting piece and get more into the job costing part of it. I don't know how they did, but that's the last I heard of them. Sapphire, the Sapphire people, Tim Welling, he was working for them, and man, I think a majority of the people wanted that company, but because it was an open book, and the price point, and honestly, you'll remember this guy. I can't remember his name, but he goes way back to AutoCAD or CAD, and
Hmm?
he was their sales rep. And the guy was really smart, but he wasn't really a salesman. And and the other thing that guy did that kind of sealed their faith was we were in a implementation meeting, and he says, I'm going to go to Starbucks. Anybody want anything? So, everyone gave him his order. He walked out and he stopped by his Farouz's office and he's like, I got to get out of here. It's like, do you want anything? Well, she kind of misread that wrong, where he needed a break from all the madness that was going on inside the boardroom. So, and plus they were pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So,
So, what do you think about living in Florida?
well, Chuck, I can tell you, I lost 100 pounds in Florida.
Nice. Where'd you leave it?
I have no idea where it's all gone, but it's so freaking hot down here. You can go out and mow the yard and lose 5 pounds.
Wow.
But yeah, I got here in 2004 and had a beautiful home. Um, Kids were all, coming of age, and They all graduated from high school here, and two out of three of them went to college in Florida. And so I really like it. So right now the heat is settling in. So it's June, July, August, September. Those 4 months, you may want to stay inside more. If not, you better
Yeah.
be in the ocean or a pool or something. So no different than Las Vegas. Las Vegas had that same. It was a drier heat in Las Vegas, and it's a lot of humidity here, but your body adapts to that. So yeah, it's my wife and I, we've enjoyed it here.
Yeah, I grew up in Houston, so I know the humidity and the heat thing. We used to call
Yeah,
it 100
yeah.
degrees, 100% humidity.
I know. San Antonio got some of that too. The thing about San Antonio, it could just be dead air. The air's not even moving. You just go out
Right,
and you just feel like you're in a sauna.
right, yeah. Did you ever go up to Garner State Park, just north of San Antonio, which is on the Frio River?
Oh, what park?
Garner, named
No,
after the a vice president called Nance Garner, who was the third vice president of FDR.
I see.
And then they named this
I, I
state.
I never went there. I bet it's big on tubing down that river.
Yeah, 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 it's great.
There's
I went
there's a
there.
park. You went there?
I went there the whole time I was growing up. My parents would take us there, every
Oh,
summer
nice.
for 2 weeks.
That's great.
It
No,
was,
San Antonio wasn't bad other than the weather, but I remember there was a water park, Schlitterbahn, that was, I want to say, north of San Antonio. And they just have all this great, it's spread out over all these acres. And it was such a great time for the kids and the family. We all went up there and spent the day.
Nice. So you have any plans for retirement? What you're, going to do other than helping ICI every now and then?
Um, no big plans. My daughter just got engaged, so I'm gonna probably have to marry her off. And but no real plans. Katrina's folks are still in Norway, and I think they're both now in their 80s, and that's a concern. And my wife's looking at cabins to like purchase so we can go over there in the summer months and get out of here and enjoy that country, and also keep an eye on our folks. So that's one of the main things we'll probably be looking at, other than to travel as much as we can,
Yeah,
when we can. So,
right. Well, that'd be
yeah.
great. Well, it's been great talking to you, Brad.
Yeah, you too.
Nice to hear all the updates.
Yep. So you're going to reach out to a bunch of other ex-employees and podcast them?
Yep.
Nice.
You're the first.
I'm the first.
You're the
I'm
first one.
honored. Hopefully I did okay and you won't cut too much out.
No, it'll be good.
Yeah.
It's all good. I
That's,
don't think I'll cut anything.
yeah. Well, that's good. Well, if you need anything else from me, let me know.
All right, Brad. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Okay. Take care, Chuck.
All right, you too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.